I do believe that we have graduated from the days leading up to Mashiach, and we are now in the days of the Mashiach. Now, only Hashem knows what will happen and how it will all play out. Just this past Friday afternoon, around 3 p.m., much of Israel was eagerly waiting for this super anticipated speech by Nasrallah. Were you guys following this? Do you know what I'm talking about? Nasrallah, the head of the leader of the Hezbollah. So I told Shayna to be ready to bring the kids into the bomb shelter, and I would stand outside ready for battle, ready for anything. I mean, what speech is he giving? He made an entire promotional video about this speech that he would be giving. So what is he going to be giving if not to announce war? And so that's what I thought it was going to be. And I thought every time that there is any sort of massive conflagration, there's these think tanks that do war games. And if a nuclear weapon goes off anywhere in the world, within a number of minutes to an hour, tens of nuclear weapons go off all over the world at the very least, in every scenario. And so I told her that, yes, it could happen. And Shabbat was coming in very early. I think it came in at 4:30. And I was supposed to bathe Dvash at 3 o'clock, but I said, no, 3:15, I'm going to bathe her. So I'm not stuck with her in the bathtub when World War III breaks out. It's just another small example of the crazy reality that we're in, that I'm delaying bath time by 15 minutes in case thousands of missiles start flying into Israel and a nuclear holocaust breaks out. It's so that I'm even saying these words and that they're not crazy is, at least I don't think they're crazy. Do you think they're crazy?
It could have happened.
It could have happened. And so then there I was on the balcony saying the Psalms and spiritually preparing myself for any eventuality. And then the reports came in. And he pretty much threw Hamas under the bus and said that the war was their independent initiative and that his war with Israel would be later on many different fronts at the time of his choosing, meaning at the time of Iran's choosing. And so I put Dvash in the bathtub, and Shane and I just laughed and said, well, I guess we have Shabbat together, and so let's see how that goes. And
my initial instinct was maybe he's just trying to take us off our guard. Everyone felt very relieved by that. I just thought that maybe he's lying. Maybe he's just trying to take our guard down.
And then he's going to do the war. Yeah, maybe.
Next week
or then. I don't know. Anyways. But I just walked away and said to myself that I guess we have more of a journey ahead of us as a nation before the great day that we all know is coming. Because as a nation, we are definitely on a journey of waking up, a journey of coming to, a journey of coming to terms with the fact that we are indeed, as the evil prophet Bilam proclaimed, Am levadad tishkon, a people that shall dwell alone and shall not be reckoned among the nations. We're on a journey of faith and trust in Hashem, of self-discovery, and of realizing that really on a national level, we are alone. And I'll tell you what I mean by this journey of sort of self-discovery. As we've been dispersed among the nations, there's been much light that we've brought to the world, and also light that we have taken from the world in our journeys, in our exiles, in the diaspora. But also we've been influenced, in some good ways, I'm sure, but also a lot of negative ways as well. And we've adopted foreign values and infused them into our essences so much that we've started identifying with them. We've started considering them to be our own values and thinking that's who we are. And so now there's this process of refinement where we're being disabused of our illusions and our delusions and our foreign values and coming to terms with what it is to actually be a Jew in a real way, because these foreign values and the people that identify and are attached to them are rejecting us and leaving us. And so my heart breaks, for my friends and family in America that are quickly coming to this realization that they're not welcome there. I have conversations like this every single day, and they're realizing that they're not loved and accepted as they thought. That yes, Jews are a minority, but that doesn't count. It doesn't count. We're not considered to be in the family of intersectional minority victims. No. We stand alone. And so here's just one example of the hundreds of posts that I've seen and conversations that I've had that are all like expressing the same thing. So this Shayna showed me this. It was one of her friends. She wrote, I had always lived in my safe Jewish bubble. Well, my friends, that bubble has burst. I do a quick check each time my son leaves the house to make sure that he has a hat with him to cover his kippah. I've taken off my car magnets that were once displayed proudly for my children's school and camp. If you know Jews in New Jersey, New York, they have all of the camps and all the Jewish schools and all the Jewish things on their car. Nope, she took them off. She said, I make sure my girls don't look too modest with their back leggings and skirt before going to the mall. I find that I'm hiding all my signs of my Jewish identity, but I ask, would you hide me? Think about that. She's saying, would you hide me? And it's not melodrama. It's not crazy. She's actually asking that from a real place. And a lot of Jews are really wondering. They look around at their non-Jewish friends that are silent in the face of the genocide that our people has just faced. And they say, if and when it comes to it, who would actually hide me? You know, and that's a rude awakening. And part of this journey, you know, here in Israel, is a different type of refinement of values and of attributes. And these core Torah Jewish attributes that are being clarified for us are not just values, sort of like, you know, in the normative, fluffy sense of the word values, but they're called midot. We've spoken about this before, midot, which doesn't only mean attributes, but it means amounts or measures, because each attribute needs to be expressed in its proper balance, in its proper measure. Compassion, for example, right? It's definitely a biblical value, a Jewish value, kindness, forgiveness, Jewish values, but so is strength and justice. God is a God of vengeance, right? The Torah tells us. Moses refused to die before he saw the vengeance of God against Midian. But, you know, it's also forbidden, the Torah tells us, to take revenge against our fellows. So what is it? Can we take revenge or can't we take revenge? Should we have compassion or should we not have compassion? When do we apply which value to what degree, to what amount, to what measure? You see, if we all agree that our purpose in this world is to cleave to Hashem, to cleave to God, to walk with Hashem through this world, to be close to Hashem, so then what does that mean? Because as you know, it's my thing, my mantra. The Torah tells us, Ein od milvado. I find that on this journey, when I'm getting all wound up and a little bit nervous, maybe a wave of fear, I just start singing those words. Ein od milvado. Ein od milvado. And I sing that to myself, and it just helps massage in the truth that behind all of this, that Hashem is really behind all of it, running the show. So Ein od milvado, there's nothing other than Hashem. Well, if that's true, that the whole world is godliness, all of existence is God's undifferentiated unity, and everything else is an illusion, well, then what does it mean to be close to Hashem or far from Hashem if we're completely and totally enveloped and immersed in Hashem's unified oneness, and there's nothing but Hashem? So our sages teach us that in the spiritual realm, you're close to something if you're similar to it, and you're far from something if you're different from it. So our quest for the Torah understanding of the true balance of these attributes is nothing short of our mission in this world. When we talk about, you know, Jeremy has these different fellowships about aligning ourselves with Hashem, aligning our attributes with Hashem's attributes. That alignment, what is it saying? That our will is His will. His balance of attributes, we adopt that and we live that and we embody that and we manifest that. His will is our will to such a degree that He will use us as individuals and as a nation as vehicles to reveal Himself to the world and to all of mankind. And so why am I saying this? Because while there's great unity growing stronger each day within the nation of Israel, there's also now vehement debates about who we are and what we are to do as a nation. And I know, because I'm getting into these debates, and every now and then Jeremy barges violently into my home in the middle of a war and just vents about the latest person that he's having this debate with, a good friend of ours, that he's debating about these real serious questions, difficult questions that we're facing. You know, but fortunately we have a long tradition of being able to fiercely debate without having that necessarily affect our underlying love for each other. So, you know, I told him that my debate with this specific friend, every other sentence I said, you know, I love you so much. I love you so much, but I love you. I love you. And we're constantly reminding each other because the stakes are high and the emotions are high. And we're really getting into it. One of the great debates is about what we're supposed to do in Gaza right now. Because as you know, I believe that we should be sending in bunker buster bombs from the first moment of this war, sending in bunker buster bombs to Hamas headquarters. And it doesn't matter what they've built them under, schools, hospitals, whatever. In my opinion, any innocents that die, their blood is on Hamas's hands for cynically capitalizing on our compassionate hearts and love for humanity by headquartering their missiles that they're firing on our cities and the monsters that burned and beheaded our babies under their schools and hospitals and population centers. That's on them. I'm not holding any punches, my friends. I'm just sharing my heart with you, and I hope that's okay. And so while I believe that we should devastate Hamas wherever they are, there are also those that believe the exact opposite, that we should leave Hamas alone. Let them live. Let them regroup and rearm and prepare for another genocidal attack on the innocent, pure children of Israel. So last week I showed you a clip of these Jewish college kids that were doing a sit-in for in Congress, advocating and arguing exactly for that. And I was so upset by this that I actually made this video for them that I plan on releasing after the fellowship. Here's a sneak peek. This is a message to the Jewish college students who organized a sit-in protest calling for a ceasefire with Hamas, as you see right here.
Alfumi, 30, Abdullah Ramadan Abu Ghazal.
And the reason it cuts so deep is because by calling for a ceasefire, whether you realize it or not, you're endangering and sacrificing the lives of Israeli soldiers, people who love you and would die for you in order to protect the lives of the very genocidal jihadi terrorists who hate you and would kill you, because they would. Right now, you're useful to them so they'll smile and whatever, but when the time comes, don't think you'll be spared, because it won't matter whether you marched with them or against them. You're a Jew, and you don't deserve to live. And don't take my word for it, just listen to them. No, it's not gas the Zionists, not gas the settlers, gas the Jews. I know it's hard to wrap your mind around because in the end of the day, I'm sure you're good people and you have good hearts. But we haven't seen this degree of evil since Auschwitz and Treblinka. And even then, even during those dark years leading up to the Holocaust, there were Jews that were falling into the same suicidal trap you're falling into right now. Look it up for yourselves. They were called the Association of German National Jews. And they came out in support of Hitler. And they were passionately opposed to Zionists, who they considered to be a threat to Jewish integration and carriers of a, quote, racist ideology serving British imperial purposes. Right? Sound familiar? Their founder was a guy named Max Naumann, and he issued a press release explaining that, quote, "We have always held the well-being of the German people and the fatherland, to which we feel inextricably linked, above our own well-being. Thus, we greeted the results of January 1933, even though it has brought hardship for us personally." They greeted the results. And you know the end of the story. They, of course, ended up in the same concentration camps, in the same gas chambers as every other Jew. Listen, these are confusing times, not only for you, but for all of us. But we're an ancient people. Let's not get lost in the moment. As Jews, we need to realize that we're not right-wing conservative Republicans and we're not left-wing liberal Democrats. We are Jews. You're Jews. And whether you believe in God or not, you're the children of the living God of Israel who has been protecting us and sustaining us against all odds. So please, I beg of you, their mission is to kill every single one of us, every single one of you, to put out all the lights. We are not co-religionists. We're family. And when your family is in danger, you put aside the differences and the disagreements and the ideologies, and we stand together. And it doesn't matter if the entire world is against us, and they will be. We will be victorious in the end. And when we are, you're not going to want to look back and feel the shame of standing against your brothers and sisters who love you no matter what. So just please consider what I'm saying, because it's coming from here. I'm saying it with nothing but love. So stay strong, stay safe, come home.
Am Yisrael
So that's my message. I'm planning after the fellowship to send it out to everybody, to all the colleges, the college students that I know. And if you know any Jewish college students, send that out. I'm going to blast it out on our fellowship on the Arugot Farm WhatsApp. If you're not a member of that, Tabitha, you can put it there. You could join our WhatsApp group and you could blast that out. I want college kids to see that because they're, I'm not filled with anger at them or hatred or resentment, only love. The type of love you feel, honestly, for like a mentally ill, delusional brother who hates you despite the fact that you love him and care for him more than anyone else. How can I expect them to be, smelted in this kiln of LGBTQ transgendered wokeism from morning to night from their professors that they're paying to teach them this stuff, and expect them to have even a semblance of understanding of their own Jewish identity? And plus, it's not like they had Michael Abramowitz as a father that taught them that there's virtue and value in just being different and standing different. They've never taught that. So all they want to do is to be loved and accepted. It's like they don't even have a chance. How can you hate them or be angry at them? There's so much room for compassion there, and they sing of compassion, but as I read through our Torah portion, I saw example after example of how Hashem deals with evil, because this portion contains within it one of the greatest paradigmatic examples of an evil society, right? Sodom and Gomorrah. We see the depravity of this city, and not only of this city, but of Lot himself, whose values too have become so twisted and distorted by virtue of his fact he's living there. He's immersed in there. He's dwelling amongst them. So what happens? The people of Sodom see that he has guests, and they converge on his home to I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, it's right, to gang rape and murder them. And so Lot learned his compassion and his hospitality from Abraham, but even that had become twisted and distorted when he offered them this unimaginably horrifying deal. What does it say? And Lot went out the door to them and closed the door after him and said, I beg of you, my brothers, do not do so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters who have not known men. Let me, I beg of you, bring them to you and do to them as is good in your eyes. Only to these men do nothing, seeing that they have come under the shadow of my roof. I've always shudder at that. He offered his own daughters. He offered them his own daughters to rape to death. How sick is that? I mean, these people were so evil that even when they were struck by blindness, they're still grasping. There's like no getting to these people, and he offers his daughters to them. Clearly he's got the wrong balance of attributes there. And the sages even say that as a punishment for that, attribute for attribute, it would be him that would end up lying with his own daughters. And the angels escort Lot and his wife and his daughters. And we later learned, by the way, that it was really not necessarily because they deserved it, but for Abraham's sake that the angels were saving him. And the angels took them into the mountains, warning them, as all of you know, warning them what? Don't look back. Don't look back. Tehila has various teachings on this, a beautiful teaching. There's a lot of various teachings on this. But one that really spoke to me concerning the times we're in is that the sages say that why were they told not to look back? So they would not have compassion upon the residents of Sodom. They shouldn't send an energy of compassion through their gaze to that city which did not deserve compassion. Compassion would not be the right attribute to be broadcasting there. So then we learn about the destruction itself, right? Chapter 19, verse 24. Then Hashem rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from Hashem out of heaven, right? So it says Hashem there twice. Now, to really understand what I'm about to say, you really need to know the original Hebrew, because as we've learned before, Hashem, God has different names that are used in different places and situations where the manifestation is most appropriately expressed. And so you would think that in this verse, the name Elohim would be used, as that is the aspect of strict judgment. Because here, Sodom is being judged. So you would think it would say, then Elohim rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone, and fire from Elohim came out of the heaven. But that's not what it says. You'd think it was. They're being judged here. But Elohim is not the name that's used. The name that's used is the Tetragrammaton, the name of Hashem, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, the name that expresses God's mercy. Because the Sforno teaches us that when that level of depravity is destroyed from the earth, it's an act of compassion on them. So sick and twisted and evil were these people that it would be better for them, an act of compassion upon them, not to exist. Because one should not have compassion upon pure evil. And this is a lesson that is very hard for the nation of Israel, because we are called Rachmanim b'nei Rachmanim, compassionate ones, the children of compassionate ones. So compassionate as a nation. We're so compassionate as a nation that the sages actually teach us that if you meet a Jew that is lacking compassion, you should investigate their Jewish lineage. Nonetheless, we are facing such evil right now that we need to overcome that impulse, or perhaps not overcome the impulse, but to direct it, to channel the compassion to where it belongs, to the victims of their evil Nazi jihadi pogroms, to the babies that have been burned, to the families that have been wiped out, to the 240 hostages still suffering unimaginably under Hamas's viciousness. Our compassion should be directed towards them, not on the people that overwhelmingly voted in Hamas, not the mothers who raised these monsters, not on the society that celebrated in the streets and even raided the devastating devastated the villages that had just gone through these massacres to rob them, to steal from them, to take whatever survivors they would kidnap and bring with them. A lot of these kidnapping victims are probably not even under Hamas's auspices, just random Gazans that took advantage of the scenario. And that's where we're supposed to be putting our compassion. No, thank you. That's not the right way to do it. And that's what a lot of these debates are about. And I think one thing that helped unite the Knesset behind this Gaza operation to the degree that it has so far was the playing of the unredacted, unedited GoPro videos from the terrorists. Knesset members collapsed to the ground, broke down in uncontrollable weeping, needed therapy after. No one was able to sit through it unmoved. So I'm not going to sit here and monopolize this entire fellowship. I'm going to turn over to Jeremy, but I will say that I too, sing the song that they were singing. I yearn for the same words that my leftist brothers and sisters who so tragically used that verse in Isaiah in chapter 2 to call for compassion to the greatest evil we've possibly ever seen. What were they singing? You remember what they were singing? They were singing, Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, Lo yilmedu on milchama. We've been singing this my whole life. I always thought it was the most beautiful. It shall come to pass that nation shall no longer lift up sword against nation, nor shall they learn war anymore. But let's read those verses just in a little bit greater context here. Started just the beginning of chapter 2 of the book of Isaiah. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it, and many people shall go and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of Hashem from Yerushalayim, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall decide for many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor shall they learn war anymore. So I am sure that those days are going to come. The days will come, and I believe they'll be soon, when there will no longer be war. I think about it all the time. When I walk through my house and I see the sandbags and the defensive positions, and I imagine people coming from around the world to see our homes and the sandbags and the shooting positions, and children are asking their parents, for what? Who would want to hurt the children of Hashem? Who would want to hurt anyone? We're all the children of Hashem. That day will come, but only when we eradicate evil from the world and shine a light of truth and godliness and Torah to the world. When the nation of Israel rises from the dust and shines a light of Hashem's truth to the world, as hard as that may be, and only then will we be able to really beat our swords into plowshares.